Hello everybody, welcome back to the podcast where we dive deep into the kaleidoscope of cultural diversity and life challenge. Get comfortable, settle in, and let's embark in a journey of discovery, resilience, and celebration of the rich mosaic of humanity right here on Kimchi for Breakfast. In each episode, we sit down with amazing guests and we unpack their journeys, their experience, their perspectives and insights. And today we do have another extraordinary guest with us. She wears so many hats. She is a woman, she is wife, she is mother, she is conservatory trained actress.
Yeah.
And she's a compassionate woman who extends her care behind borders and already worked as a volunteer here supporting the local community in Seoul. Welcome, Christine.
Thank you.
Welcome to the podcast. Finally.
Yeah,
Finally,
it's really lovely to be here.
It's happening.
Yeah, I know. It's been a while.
I think that this will be super easy for you because you are already comfortable with performing under pressure and step on stage and face people.
Well, I don't know if it'll be easy, but I'm very happy to be here. And it's really lovely to have a conversation with you.
Thank you so much.
Because already we've been having such amazing conversations. Yeah. So that's what will make it easy.
Yeah. And it's not the first time that you speak with a Portuguese with a super strange accent, English accent.
You don't have a strange accent at all. No, yet there's a huge Portuguese community in Montreal. So I grew up with a lot of Portuguese friends and people around me.
Christine, born to a Canadian mother
Yeah.
and a father from Lebanon.
Yes.
So let's dive in your story.
Okay.
And this is not your first time as an expat, correct?
No. So when I left Montreal, first we went to Zurich in Switzerland, and then Copenhagen in Denmark, and then recently Tokyo in Japan. And now I've been here since the beginning of 2023 in Seoul.
Wow. Which country was the most challenge for you?
Oh. Zurich was my first time as an expat, so that was that. And then Denmark actually felt very familiar. It has a lot in common with, especially Quebec, the French part of Canada. So it wasn't so foreign and everyone spoke English. Japan was a huge shift, huge. So that took a lot of time to get used to, and a lot of approaches in Japan really challenged the way I did things. And it took me an extremely long time to kind of see another way in certain circumstances. But I think it's where I grew the most because of it. So it was amazing. But it was definitely a challenge also because of the language. There was so little English spoken, so it was very different. And just figuring out when you move as an expat, figuring out the logistics and having to do logistics when you can't communicate, and just like vaccinations for children, like just the most necessary basic logistics become very hard. And then in a way, Seoul has been less challenging because now I've been through the process, so I trust the process. I know that I will fall in love with Seoul. I know that there are things that are going to be hard and things that I'm going to love, and I will meet people, and I will. So I could trust in that. What's hardest here is it's the first country where I don't have a work visa. So in that respect, it's the most challenging.
Wow.
Because I can't be part of society in the same way.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. What was the most challenge here in Seoul is not working.
Yeah.
And the second one, the language is a barrier for you, or are you already learning language?
It's definitely a barrier. I am learning very slowly.
Of course, but I'm like all of us.
Yeah. But it's interesting with Korean because you learn the alphabet and you're like, this is amazing, I can read. Like, it's going to be smooth. And then you start speaking and you're like, oh, okay. The ease of the alphabet is not representative of
Yes, of course. I don't know the English word for, in Portuguese is illiteracy. Maybe it's in English is illiteracy.
Yeah.
That is the ability to read but not understand. This is why I'm in Korean. I'm able to read, but I don't understand what I'm reading, you know? And just doing sounds. For me, it's just sounds.
Yeah.
Related to your role as actress, which kind of performance, I don't know if it's the correct way to ask you, you enjoy the most, or I don't know if you have the opportunity to do both, like theater with real people? Well, because
Yes.
I think that is different. Stepping in the stage with lots of faces looking to you and recording, it's a different thing.
Totally different thing. It's a different. Also, when you're acting in theater, you're acting to many, and when you're acting in film, you're usually acting to one. So I haven't acted for a long time, since I left Canada, but I was trained in theater, so I did like conservatory theater training. So I've done most of theater on stage, and I love it. I love creating theater. So I had a theater company that did collective creations where we bring in actors, writers, sometimes dancers, just different artists together, and we'll create a piece together. And often the result of that type of piece, it's not going to be a brilliant piece of writing, but there's a certain magic in it because it comes from people working together in the moment, which I love. I have done film. I've done very little TV, but yeah, that's I've done some film and a lot of theater, but a long time ago.
I'm seeing here a connection between your background as a theater actress and actually your coaching work.
Yes.
Because it's bringing people together and work as a team and have a good performance in the end.
So that's the work I've been doing since I left Canada. I've been working, so in Canada, my theater company had started giving corporate workshops to fund the art. And that was a real discovery for me. And then when I left Canada, or actually when I was in Denmark, I really focused on that. And I worked for a leadership development company. And I brought theater development tools to corporate leadership and communication development. And I think there's so much that theater has to offer for leaders and for teams in almost any field.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. From my experience, we start to do more workshops like this during our careers, but maybe we need to think in different approaches, and I think that this is a really powerful one. As a kid, I used to love acting. Even the worst days were super happy because we were on stage, we try our best, and we were different people in that stage. A part of this happiness, which kind of skills and tools or advantage you see that acting can bring to children or even adults?
Well, there's so much. So on a technical level, or more technical level, there's working with your voice, working with your body. To me, so much of what I love to bring is improvisation. And not improvisation in terms of, first of all, there's a misconception sometimes that you have to be funny and it's about, to me, language can be involved. It doesn't even have to be involved. It's more about listening and responding and reacting to something going on in the room. And that ability to do that together, make mistakes, let it go deeper, create. So improvisation is what I really love. And also playing together, which I think listening is a big part of what theater offers. Exploring also, for children, maybe exploring emotions, exploring how the voice responds. I haven't worked with children that much, actually, at all, with small children. So my experience has always been with older adults mainly, and then some teenagers. Yeah, and it's really interesting what you say. I mean, if we think of theater more as like presenting a play, it brings people together in a room. which is something maybe religious institutions used to do, but we don't do often. And you're all experiencing the same story, and it's actual energy, people on stage, as opposed to each one of us on our device getting a specific story that's for us. So there's something about just the gathering of people, which is really lovely, and the vulnerability of it. But right now, when I do work with theater, I work a lot with not so much the performance aspect of it. I work much more with the collaborative aspect of it.
You said one really nice thing, that is, I think that with these new times, we are losing one of things that we are most afraid that make us different from everything and make every project that we turn in reality different from all the rest, that is vulnerability of being human. You know, this is something that we are losing. I just heard that in the news that in Spain they already launched the first TV presentation created by AI.
Oh, wow.
And she is speaking. She is an AI. This lady does not exist at all. She was created, and everything that she speaks by AI. So perfect Spanish, perfect accent, perfect face, perfect hair, perfect nails, perfect makeup, perfect everything. You know, the perfect lady,
wow,
just show up in the Spanish TV. And you know, the funny part of some projects are the mistakes. This is why we collect them, and sometimes we put them in the end of some movies or some projects because they are funny, you know. It's funny and it's healthy. There is a power or behind love of our fails. I'm always saying you should be the first of laughing about it because you fail or you miss, or because if you laugh about that, no one can hurt you. Just embrace this vulnerability. And you know, as a coach, which tools do you grab from your background and do you apply when you work with the teams, different teams and different leaderships? And
well, I because I've worked in leadership development, I combine some assessments that are kind of my go-to assessments and some theory with practice. And it really depends on who the client is, what they're working on. Often, sometimes individuals. I've worked with women on being more empowered communicators. So I'll use very different approach to that than I will with a team. So interestingly, like I worked with a team who during COVID had spent several years apart. And so they didn't need communication training. They needed an opportunity to come together and play and learn to listen to each other and have these experiences that would connect them. So I bring a lot of play, a lot of games. So sometimes I'll use tools, objects. I work with these sticks that people work with in space. And then I'll also use assessments to look at the more theoretical background of who's in the room.
So and your goal is to get the communication more efficient.
Yeah, I mean, efficient is one of the aspects, but also when you're working, so more collaboration. So, you know,
more interactions.
More successful ideation and collaboration. So one of the tools I work with is called Global Disc, and it looks at diversity of thought, cognitive diversity, and which means how can I work with someone who thinks differently than I do? And that to me is one of the major goals, is how can we bring people together who have different ways of thinking, different ways of communicating, and how can we facilitate an exchange and a process and a way of working together and understanding each other that will create synergy. And so there's different levels to that, of how I do that. But it really depends on who I'm working with, the tools that I bring.
Yeah. And this expat life is also super helpful for your work.
Absolutely. And it challenges you deeply.
Yeah.
And you also experience what it is to be other and what it is to not be part of the norm or the mainstream in a very privileged way. I'm aware of that. It's not, but just not having the ease of communicating is very humbling.
Yeah, and you are super lucky because you are really a good communicator, as I already told you, even without saying nothing. Yeah, your body language and your face communicate even if when you are quiet. So you are privileged. But
yeah, recently I took a class which was with all native English speakers. And I was so over the top. I think I've become even more kind of expressive because I'm used to communicating with body language and sounds and kind of expressions. That then when I work with only native English speakers, I feel like, oof, I'm a bit too clown-like in a sense. But that's...
When I was working in Germany, it was so difficult for me. I was trainer there in healthcare system. So I need to work with very technical English, and in that time my English was even worse than today. So it was really a challenge for me. I work hard every day to prepare my classes, and with English speakers from worldwide, from New Zealand, from Australia, from Ireland, from Scottish, so different accents. My boss told me, Marisa, you are so passionate about what you are doing that I think that this overcomes all your fails. And in the end, the feedbacks were really great.
But that's an amazing experience that you see it doesn't really have to do with being perfect. Like your vulnerability, in a sense, that's a perfect example, was also just allowed your passion to come through. And that's what's most important about communication. It's not saying it perfectly.
Actually, something that I never thought about that you could have the perfect English, but you could have an empty phrases. You have the content, but nothing passed to the other side. Communication is much more than words. You know?
Yeah.
How are you feeling here in Seoul? Are you comfortable already? Did you already settle down? And
yes. Someone told me recently, another expat told me, the first year is an investment wherever you go. And it's so true. So now like the first year has passed, because the first year it's about logistics, about your kids feeling comfortable, about you figuring out how everything works. So I feel like, it comes in stages, but there is a okay. And when we first moved here, we moved in January, so the kids started halfway through the year, which is really hard. But now the fact that my kids started in September, and it's like a full school year, yes.
As a family, what do you incorporate in your lifestyle, in your daily routine from different countries? Things that you keep from different cultures. That you think, this is good, let's incorporate this. This makes sense.
Absolutely. I eat natto from Japan. This is to me, it's one of my favorite foods. So this is something I've personally kept. My daughter will eat some, the rest of my family less. There's things we've brought from everywhere. I have to think about what specifically they are. We still incorporate words, Danish words, Japanese words that, capture exactly what it is that you're saying.
How many language do you speak?
I only speak two, French and English.
French and English. In which part of the Canada did you live? In English part?
No, French part.
French part,
so
really?
French is my mother tongue.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, but your English is amazing.
But now English is probably so I've always had a foot in both. Actually, my mother tongue would probably be franglais, would be the mix. That's probably where I'm most comfortable, is being able to just make them one language, which is people hate. So my mom is French-Canadian from outside of Quebec, from Ontario, and my father is from Lebanon. But my father is actually an English speaker.
Oh, yeah. Wow. And from the Lebanon culture, what do you incorporate?
Yeah, this is a big one.
Or it's already lost in the past?